So I just read The Dark Beyond the Stars by Frank M. Robinson, which is a sci-fi novel. I thought it would be kind of a horror sci-fi book. It's not really. There are some light horror elements, I'd say, really light. It's more sci-fi thriller drama kind of book, I'd say, which I really enjoyed. At first the book starts off rather slowly. For the first 80 pages or so, I'd say it's, the author takes his time to set up everything, so we get to know more about the ship, the crew of the ship, the captain, and the main character, whose name is Sparrow. So essentially, story of the book, it's about this guy Sparrow, who is the narrator of the story, and he has amnesia, and he's trying to figure out who he is. Essentially, the last thing that he remembers is setting foot on a planet called Ceti 4 and having an accident there, falling off a cliff and being brought back to the ship. He knows that somebody's trying to kill him, and he does not know who or why. And there's also this big mutiny growing in the ship, and you get to see this mutiny, how it's going to pan out through the book, as well as understanding who is this guy Sparrow and why is he important to the ship and the captain. And yeah, the ship's been on a mission for 2,000 years now, so it's generational ship, so people live and die on this ship. They have children, and their children take their place as crew members. The only guy that's been there from the beginning is the captain. He's 2,000 and so years old, because he was there at launch. It's kind of sad, but he's not really immortal. It's just that he can live really long because of some things that were done to him, essentially. But yeah, that's mainly it for the plot. I don't want to get into more stuff because that would spoil the book. I really enjoyed the topics that were shown in this book, so questions of what makes us human, what defines an individual, because of all the amnesia thing going on. He's always questioning who he was before, and if that is still him or not. So I really enjoyed that. And the last question, is there life out there? Because I forgot to mention that the mission of the ship is just to find alien life out there. So they've been out for 2,000 years and they've not been able to find any alien life. So just the fact that we're not able to see alien life doesn't mean that it does not exist. Is there still people out there outside from us, or are we alone in the universe? That's mainly the main question that this book asks, actually. There are some things that reminded me of Dune. I can't talk about these topics without spoiling anything, so I'm not really going to talk too much about them, but mainly about how, without spoiling anything, how the Emperor saw the humans, as not necessarily ape in a zoo, but you know what I mean, less than him because he's immortal. Not really immortal, but he can live for thousands of years. We have the same thing here with the captain being able to live that long. He's starting to see us as something else than human, and not something else than human, but as less than him in a way, I'd say. And there's also, I'm going to thread carefully here, but there's also the hero trope being kind of disconstructed in here. Not as deeply as in Dune, but still, really good. And this is the main thing that I'm gathering from the book is that it has a lot of ideas. It doesn't go too much in depth with these ideas, which is something that I liked. It never becomes this book about philosophy or psychology. It's just these topics are there, get what you want from it. It's there, not in deep, not too deep into it. Just here and there are some small tidbits of philosophy ideas and psychology ideas, which is something that I enjoyed. I really liked, in getting back to Dune again, I liked in Dune how dense the book were. But that being said, though, here being less dense and just, some ideas here and there thrown in the book, I really enjoyed that also from this writer. So kind of the same topics as Dune, as I said once again, with the hero and the eternal being. When you become more, when you live longer than other humans, how does it affect you, and so on. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, as I said previously, it's light on the philosophy and psychology, but it's still, just deep enough so you question some things, still, but not too deep, so it's easier to read this book than, say, Dune or something like this. So the only problem I had with the book was the first quarter of the book, so the first 80 pages or so, because it was so slow. But I'd say don't get discouraged by that. If you're reading the book, continue on reading, because the rest of the story is worth the wait, actually. And the end of the book, so at first I had problem with the ending of the book, being too abrupt or something like this. But the more I think about it, the more I understand why he did that, and I agree with the ending. I don't think that it would have made sense to add more stuff to it. I think it makes perfect sense that it ended as abruptly as it did. And it's, still thinking about it, it's one of these books that I'm gonna remember for sure. It's not a masterpiece, or it's not a very great book or whatever, but it's a really good book that's, once again, is going to stay with me for quite some time, just because of the ending and the topics it had within the book. That's it for this book, though. Next book I'm gonna read is Stir of Echoes by Richad Matheson. I'm midway through the book, I'd say. After reading Stir of Echoes, I'm going to attempt here. I'm going to attempt to read the Lord of the Rings trilogy. This is going to be my third attempt at reading them, but my first attempt reading it in English, actually, which I hope will help. Just so you guys know, I've always stopped like midway through the second book or something like this every time I try to read the Lord of the Rings. Actually, I always stop in book 2, actually, not necessarily midway, but at different point in book number 2. But that's always where I stopped reading. I want to read that. It's something that's on my bucket list, I should say, to actually read the Lord of the Rings. I'm a big fan of the Peter Jackson movies, so I really want to read the original material, because I know that it's an important work of fiction, and I want to give it a shot. I want to be able to really finish it and, say that I finished it and be proud of myself. So once again, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.